What's good everyone, my name's Ayas, and today I'm here to review Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, aka Hoshi no Samidare. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer went from 2005 to 2010 and was an action, comedy, drama, seinen manga. The series is finally getting an anime adaptation after a whopping 12 years since it was published. This is Mizukami Satoshi's most popular work to date, and was the first series of his that really got him big. He actually started working on Sengoku Yoku midway through Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, which turned out to be a pretty good shonen manga. Afterwards, he worked on Spirit Circle for a while, which was even better than Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. His streak was cut short later on, where he made some series which were good but not that good, and they seem to lack a little bit of focus here and there with Planet With and Saihate no Solte. At first glance, Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer looks like a very childish type of manga, but looks are very deceiving. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer ends up being one of the best coming-of-age stories in recent times, and one of the better coming-of-age stories in manga in general, competing with stuff like Vagabond. This is because of the wonderful character development that happens throughout the series, especially with the main core group of characters. The main character goes from being an edgy middle schooler to being a pretty admirable character, and the journey is the best part. The characters are very nuanced, and they have more layers than you would first expect when you see them. Each character has their own journey, and we get to see every single character go through their journey. Yuhi and Samidare were great characters, but by far my favorites were Hangetsu and Hisame. Hangetsu has this idiotic confidence behind him, which I really love about him, and he lives every day to the fullest. His romance between him and Hisame is very cute, although it doesn't turn out the greatest. And there's so many good characters in this series that I can't name every single character that has an amazing character arc. The comedy in this series is hilarious. I really love the first little bit where Noi is introduced and the main character is so skeptical that he almost diagnoses himself with schizophrenia. All the jokes with the horse were also up there in terms of being one of the funniest jokes in the series. My personal favorite was when the golem was trying to murder the main characters and it decided to stop at a traffic light. Later on in the series, it does sort of die down in terms of the comedy used, because it takes a more serious tone, but there's still some jokes slid in every now and again, and the jokes are pretty good. The premise behind the series has been done before. It's when a bunch of kids team up to save the world. It kind of reminds me of Bokurano or Evangelion, and I'm not sure if this trope does have a name, but I feel like this trope needs a name where a bunch of kids just team up and save the world, because it happens so often. The art screams mid-2000s to me. There's a bunch of series in the early mid-2000s that look like this. There's nothing outstanding about Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer's art, but there's nothing horrible about it either. Although aesthetically there's not much to Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, there are some stylistic choices that the author makes which I really think help in the enjoyment of the series. The way the golems are crafted like they're made by a child, the way that the hammer is just looming ominously in the background at all times, the zodiac animals that are given to each one of these characters. And even though the characters aren't anything special, some of the girl characters do look good. I liked Hisame, as I said before. I liked Anima, and I liked the cosplay girl, and a lot of the girls just looked pretty good in this series. I would say the amount of fan service these girls get is maybe a bit too much, especially considering how young they are. I'm also a big fan of stories where there's alterations to time, and this series did that pretty well. The action scenes really aren't anything special, but they get the job done, and it's not really about the action, more so about the characters. I also liked how the conventions of a lot of normal manga were broken. The character was made to be relatively weak compared to some of the other characters, but using a little bit of his brain, he could do some of the same things other characters could. All the timelines and stuff happening that maybe we couldn't see made the series feel like it was alive, and I really liked it. The biggest flaw of this series is that Mizukami bit off more than he could chew. He introduced way too many characters into the series, and although there were so many good characters, not every single character could get as good character development as the others. You consider the fact that there's 66 chapters and about 20 characters in this series, which means a lot of characters aren't getting very much time. And most of the time was given to the main characters. So there's a few characters like the fat dude, the cosplay girl, Hanako, who just don't get as much character development as the rest. Animus too, he managed to challenge these characters as the final boss of the series, but in terms of character development for him, he's definitely way less interesting than a lot of the other characters introduced in this series. Also, a lot of the lack in character development happened later on in the series, so this might have been when he decided to start working on Sengoku Yoku, and may have been less invested into Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer at the time, but this is just speculation. And the finale to the series was so good. I really loved where they went with this. I love how he confronts her at the end of the series. And I love how that he's taken little parts and pieces of all the people that he's met throughout his journey, and he's brought them with him. And it makes it feel like he's really grown as a character in an organic way. Even in terms of Samidare, I loved how she got a bunch of development near the end of the series, and we finally get to see what she was hiding. The ending just felt so cathartic. After this fight, there was a little bit of wrap up and fan service. I thought maybe a little bit too much for my taste. If they ended it right after the fight and just said like maybe one more chapter afterwards, I would have been pretty satisfied. After the big fight, they did a fight again between the two rivals, which felt a little out of place to me considering how big the fight that just happened was. It felt like this big and epic moment that had just happened was diminished a little bit. But the ending was still good, and most mangas make pretty horrible endings, so hey, this is a win in my book. I loved the series overall. It was great. There was unexpected comedy, there was incredible characters, the world felt alive. The only real big downfall to the series was that not every single character got the time that they needed, and it felt like some characters didn't get much development. I'm feeling a decent to strong 8 on this. Like, subscribe, let me know what you thought of the series down below, and have a good one.